It's my great pleasure to talk to you, Corina, today. Could you please introduce yourself and what do you do?
Hi, it's a great pleasure to be here too. I'm Corina Enache, and I'm a language learning strategist and mindset coach to language learners. I help determined language learners to achieve language mastery with ease and within 12 months of time.
Oh, yeah, 12 months?
What?
Yeah, you help them to achieve their goals in 12 months?
12 months is the extended period that I offer. If they want 2 years, they are not my students. So I've had students achieving mastery within 3 months,
Mm-hmm.
4 months, 5 months, and yeah, even 12 months. This is the period that for sure gets them to achieve proficiency. I've did it in 5 weeks.
Oh, yeah, okay, that's fantastic. Yeah, really, okay. So let's shoot our first question. Does teaching address your real you, Corina?
Yes, totally, 100%. And when I tested my own language learning blueprint and I really saw its success, I immediately started teaching it. So I was 17 when I had my first student, and I have been using the same method for any language with all my students ever since. And even if I was a corporate in the corporate world for more than 7 years, I have always taught my students languages as a hobby. So I was always involved with it. It's part of my being.
Yeah, great. So yeah, you have extended experience in the world of English language teaching.
Yes, English. Oh, something happened. It's the police. Oh yeah. Yes, I have experience also with the English language, but also with German, Spanish, Portuguese, French, and also Russian, even though I haven't been teaching Russian. It's only the B1, B2 level. But yes, I have extended experience also with all the certificate preparations. So besides YELS, I've passed all the exams, and I've actually never needed this exam. This is the only reason why I haven't tried passing it. I've had the first certificate, then the advanced, then the proficiency. Then I wanted to give my SATs and go to a university, an Ivy League university. I did that too, and then I just needed the TOEFL. Even though it wasn't my cup of tea, I had to pass that exam. And then I switched to the other languages. And then actually what I love most is, preparing people to pass these kind of certifications, because they are the ones that really empower people to up-level their lives.
Yeah, that's great. Okay, can you say that that is fantastic in the language that you have just mentioned?
What? Sorry?
Yeah, yeah. Say, I want you to translate. That is fantastic in the languages that you said now. Yeah, I think you said German, Spanish. What else?
Oh yeah, we can do this at the end or something, because I can't switch like immediately. Yeah, it's an easy question, and we can do this. We can actually have another slot when we can have the interview in more languages. I'm more okay to talk freely, but
Okay.
it's kind of an insult just to give such an easy sentence, just translate it after 20 years of learning languages. So we can do it a real way and actually talk in all the languages together with
Mm.
other people
Yeah,
on the spot.
yeah,
It could be a real nice thing to do.
yeah. Very good. Okay. So the next
Yes.
question: do you find teaching a space to fulfill yourself and release your energy?
Mm, yes, for sure. I believe that teaching allows me to help others succeed in their lives, and the greatest fulfillment to me is seeing just that. And even after I left my corporate job like 2 years ago, what I realized that what I wanted to see was the thrilled faces of my students, and their joy when they saw they passed the exams, and when I was there with them seeing the results, and they said, okay, I got in, I can move, I can take that job or whatever they wanted.
Mhm.
That was what brought my fulfillment. And all the successes, the failures, and the comebacks, all of them just led to language mastery.
Yeah, sure. Perfect.
This is, of course.
Okay. How much time do you spend on teaching and preparing for teaching?
um, at first, I used to spend like 10 hours a month because I was very close to my learning years. So I needed to prepare and to see exactly where the student was and how to tackle each student depending on the learning methods that worked best. But in time, I managed to get to 4 hours a month because I already have all the learning material for all the languages. And I don't need to prepare. I just need to select what's working based on the method that I'm using with a particular student, you know. Of course, there's a bit of work when we talk about mindset. So mindset-wise, and whenever I see there's a struggle in the learning process, I tackle it differently. And for this, I can give extra hours just to go to the root of the problem and see how I can unblock the student, you know.
Yeah, yeah, very
And
interesting.
also, you also asked how much do I spend on teaching. It's like 60 hours a month currently. Also for my one-to-one sessions, also for the mentorship, and also for the other courses that I'm specifically teaching, where I'm specifically teaching a language.
Okay, can you give us an example of one block with one of your students?
Yeah, for sure. The most common is, for example, when they get to phrases. So in most languages, for example, in French, also in German, and also in English, when we need to ensure that we have the like the if, the conditional, and everything. We need to take care of the verbs. Yeah, they get to a point where they feel, even though they've had the practice and they've learned everything, they just feel that nothing is in their brains anymore. So even though they are really progressing, they are just getting frustrated. And this is just the moment when they just need to take it in, just relax and trust the process, because every time, all the hours that they've practiced and they've learned will show off for sure. They just need to relax and to know for sure that they will get there.
Yeah, of course, with your support and your assurance, because you tell them you are on the right way. Yeah.
And also, I can always relate to them. So there are cases, for example, in my mentorship, I'm not teaching a particular language. I'm teaching the structure for the people who want to learn on their own. So whenever they are preparing, I can always relate to them, and I can always relate to what they are feeling based on what I know that I experienced in the past. Every language was different and every certification was different. All the fears and everything was different, and different experience. And this allows me reach out better and help them better.
Yeah, very good. Okay, do you feel that you are emotionally involved in teaching?
Definitely, yes. Definitely, but I don't believe it's a wrong thing. I am not only a teacher, as I said. I have been in my students' shoes over and over again, and I also have plans to learn other languages. So it's it's necessary to be able to connect and to ensure that I can get and go there and pick their brains and see how exactly what their feelings are regarding the examinations, the speaking, the everything. So yes, I'm really, really, really emotionally attached and also involved, but I want to believe it's like what is motivating them. What motivates them, sorry.
Okay.
And I am also always right there with my students. So I'm creating the strategy, I'm planning with them the timeline, the milestones, when they have languages, for example, that I don't know, because now I don't get to teach English very much. I get to teach other languages through English. This is what I do most, you know. But whenever I see someone who wants to apply somewhere, then I want to help, of course, because I miss it. But what I wanted to say is that I get attached and I help them through this emotional involvement, which success, by being there and being the trust they need for the process to work. So they need to be empowered because, of course, usually the learners who need certifications are young people who want to create a life for their own and to have the best chances. So I really believe that motivation and emotional like intelligence as well is really necessary to achieve success.
Perfect. Okay, let me ask you another question. You say that emotional involvement is important. However, in other careers and other professions, like let's say businessmen, architects, engineers, there is no emotional involvement. Do you think this is an advantage or a disadvantage on the side of teachers?
I believe that the fact that emotional involvement is not used in other departments is their loss. It's something that should have been implemented for a long time. Nothing can last without emotional involvement. For example, when you go and work somewhere, I don't really believe that all people go to work for the money. I really believe they need to really believe in what the purpose of their work is. And if they don't follow this, they will find themselves just looking for something else, but 10 years later. So I don't think it's something negative for us, the teacher. I think it's something empowering because we are preparing the future, like the future generation of people to be strong emotionally and to have a successful mindset.
Yeah,
So does this answer your question?
yeah, very nice. Okay, let me ask you another follow-up question. Okay, you say that teachers are emotionally involved in teaching. Do
No,
you?
I said I am.
You okay? You are. You
Not
are.
all of them. I am and also my mentors. So I've had teachers as I am, and I appreciate them. But I know that we are all different, and all techniques differ.
Mhm.
And we can be successful as
Yeah,
long as we have some common points that keep us on the right track with our teaching purpose.
perfect. My question is, do you get rewarded for your emotional involvement with the students?
What? I
Do
haven't
the
understood.
do the students always thank and appreciate your emotional involvement?
Yes, because so there are also boundaries. We don't get to know to know each other like personally. Of course, we know each other as strengths in learning skills, in mindset stuff. They can see I am a role model because I can show them how things get done. But there is always a limit. So. I've always got only appreciation from their side because they have always said, Corina, you are the one who made us continue because we believed we couldn't do it. But I've always been there and I've always pushed them and they managed to break through their struggles.
Fantastic. So the next question is exactly related to the point. How do you react to appreciation from your students?
I must admit that I'm usually overwhelmed because I can see in that instant, I can see how their lives change. But, and always the appreciation that I get from them is beyond imagination. So I got a lot of messages that brought me almost to tears, but of course they don't know. I just keep them close to my heart. And uh, I, I saw in myself what choosing languages did to my life and how everything unfolded. So I will be forever grateful for choosing languages as a lifelong passion. So this is why when I get their appreciation, it's like seeing um, another
Piece of,
leaf,
mhm.
another piece of the same thing, but unfolding differently because we all have different dreams, you know, and aspirations.
Sure. Okay, next question. How do you define your teaching technique?
Yeah. Um, it's I usually always say it's the best. It's the, yeah, I will try to be like objective. It's my signature program. It's called the 12-month mentorship, my technique, and it's my unique formula actually for nailing any language by following a clear system and using the methods and the learning tools that I'm teaching. It is based on 4 pillars that I believe are the pillars that anyone needs when um, setting a goal to achieve, like planning, structuring the learning material, then structuring the learning materials, of course, in terms of languages, grammar, speaking, writing, then vocabulary, of course, all the practice sessions, and everything needs to be like really, really clear in terms of timeline and time that you need to allocate. And then tracking and measuring. The fourth part is when you make it all happen, and then you just repeat, because you need to tweak and adapt and ensure that you keep on track and you achieve the goals you want. And this is actually the fun part, when the learners get to know each other, they get to know their brains and get to know their way of learning, and they actually intuitively start doing more of what's best for them, and they crack the code. So the mentorship basically offers to the high achievers the chance to learn how to properly get to language mastery, even from scratch or not, it doesn't matter, but they can do it on their own. And they are actually learning how to relearn everything or anything better. Even they are creating new foundations for their learning, and this is the total blueprint for success. In our case, languages.
Yeah, like I see a lot of dependence on the self autonomy or the effort of the students or the learners in this case.
Yes, because a lot of people believe that if they buy a course or if they buy a coach, like the services of a coach, like really pushing them and being there, and it doesn't mean that they achieve success. Everything is only done by their putting themselves to work. I know that I could get my proficiency certificate in German in 5 weeks, but I was learning 20 hours a day for 5 weeks. So I know what I had to do, and I did it. And at the same time, I had my bachelor's degree diploma to present, and it was in Russian. So you can understand what I wanted to do during that period. But everyone is different. So
yeah,
yeah.
It takes a lot of planning, it seems.
Yes, but of course, it's like determination for anyone to know, okay, I want to know a language in 6 months. Okay, I need to have 10 hours a week if I want to make it happen. They really need to understand what it takes.
Yeah, sure.
It's not hard, it's not easy, but it can be done with ease. And through learning a new language, anyone can find more about themselves, like literally getting to know stuff about yourself more.
Yeah, sure. Okay, how do you select the ways you teach?
Well, I think in a way I answered a bit of it before. I select the tools I'm using based on my first strategy call with the student. We have 2 in a period of 1 month to ensure that everything is set up. The mindset is also very important during this initial phase, and then we just take action upon it. We get clear on the goals first, and then I am deciding, like, I can't say that I have a formula, but what I pay attention to is how the student retains the information, what's best for him or her. The listening, they listen better, they read better, they remember things when reading out loud. So I test a bit to see exactly how it's working. And of course, this takes me like 2 or 3 sessions to be sure. So this is why after 2 or 3 weeks, we meet again and I check to see if I was right with my intuition. And only then we make the final strategy.
Do your students have, yeah, sorry,
Sorry.
continue.
Of course, we need to adapt. So nothing is like for sure. If I can see that in the first 12 weeks, somebody acts somehow and it's working, okay, I will continue that. But I will also add some other things. And depending on how it's working, we will tweak and adapt to ensure that we get to our goal in whatever time we have.
Very nice. How do you see the learners when you plan lessons?
I have always seen them as I remember myself. So I'm always adapting, of course, and enriching the formula with everything that I see them experience on their learning journey. But when it comes to planning my lessons, in the first phase, um, during the first phase, it was really important what I knew that that I had experienced because I've been there. Then everything that I saw in other students, and there was a pattern, you know, after 5 years, like in the first year I said, okay, I can't have any conclusion to this research. But after 5 years, yes, you have quite a load, you know, on your hands. So I did like researched everything through all of my students like results and checked everything. And to answer your question, I always have them in mind. I always have like 4 or 5 types of students, because some are from the corporate world, some are students, some of them are already like adults, professionals that just want to move or whatever, you know.
Yeah.
I have them in mind because I want to ensure that their needs are fulfilled.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not just giving like a certificate. You can get a certificate going to an institute.
Yeah, sure.
And of course, I love the British Council. So I know that I know that we are now talking about English, but I believe that it's important to know that it's related to all languages.
Mm-hmm.
So even though it's British Council or the Cervantes Institute or anything, it's like the same thing, and it's the same structure for any language.
Okay, let me ask you another follow-up question. Like, how do you balance between your personal experience with learning the language and with the established techniques and mechanisms for the same purpose?
Meaning how?
Yeah, because you know, like in the English language world, there are a lot of techniques and a lot of methodology and a lot of methods throughout the history of English language teaching. And
Yeah. I understand. Yeah. Well, the only thing that's always interested me, and I think last year when I went to a conference in Fisher conference, I believe, it was the fact that I always thought that all languages are connected. So whenever I created my method, I always have, let's say, a student who's Portuguese. Yeah, now I have a lady, for example, she's Portuguese. I'm teaching German through English. Of course, I am always using the analogies for Portuguese and French because I know she also knows French, to ensure that she gets the logic behind the German grammar. Mm-hmm. You know, so I must admit I haven't read much about the conservatory or the like the real technology. But what I was interested in, and I've been researching it, and I'm going to also do something about it and open a mentorship on it to share it with the world, is the fact that we all use all our languages to learn any other language. And this is what I think is the future of language learning, being able to adapt based on what other language background the student has, be it English or any other language.
Very nice. Okay. So the next question. Yeah, what have you learned about your learners throughout your experience?
What I've learned about them throughout my experience is that when you have determination and consistency and the right guidance, success is guaranteed. So for sure, of course, this can only happen once you really decide to commit to your language goals and actually do the work, as we said, but it needs to be done consistently, day in and day out, trusting the process, and then you finally achieve it. There's no other way. So if I learned something about my students, is that they were all successful when these were made, were like rigorously followed. These four things.
Yeah. Okay. Do all techniques? Yeah. Sorry. Sorry, Corina. Sorry.
This is the only constant for success.
Okay. Do all techniques have the same success probability?
Uh, I cannot say anything about any other technique than mine, but I can only vouch for what I've experienced myself, and I've learned 6 foreign languages using this method. Of course, there have been teachers involved during school. Of course, I had mentors. Of course, I studied Russian and Portuguese during my university years, so I have like a bachelor's degree in it. But I always use my method to ensure that I have the foundation, you know. So I never trusted the teachers. I always went back to my method. So what I can say for sure is that when we talk about the tools and the methods that we use as teachers, this is what differentiates between success and failure. Because if you implement the right strategy using the best tools in a particular case, it doesn't matter the technique, because the means are the same. It's another way of tackling something. So I believe that all techniques are good depending on what kind of student you have.
Very nice. Okay, so the next question, how do you understand your learners?
As I told you, I usually get to know my students and they get to know me as their teacher, but also as a language passionate. Yeah, so that was the boundary thing we're talking about.
Yeah.
They always get to know me as a language passionate as well. So I know that there is a very high level of understanding between me and them, and this plays a pivotal role in their progress. It is part of the whole trusting the process thing, you know? And I want to believe that I understand them really well, and like generation gap, it's not that big yet for me to be able to reach out to their needs and ensure they stay on track and achieve their language goals.
Okay. How do learners' brain receive and tackle information according to your experience?
Okay, yeah. So it goes right, this method, this is why it's so powerful, right, exactly because of this, the answer to this question. The method goes right into the learner's brain, and it shows exactly how the information is processed or retained. And I think it's also the same for other techniques, you know, that are molded, like are bespoke and are specific for any student, better, let's say it better. And we always create, like me and my students, we always create a strategy, and we always create a strategy based on the response I see from their brains. This is why I totally believe that they start by not knowing how to tackle anything, so the information, but I am teaching them from the start. We as teachers can mold them into the learners we want them to become. For example, one thing I know they don't like, but all of them need to do, if they can't understand, if they can't read their own words, they are going to do calligraphy. There's no other way. Or they are out. I don't care. If they dare to not to understand the word, they wrote in the notebook, they move to just doing, like, you know, in the first grade, they are doing just that, even if they are 30. I don't care. Another thing, structure. When you see the notebook, structure. When I tell you, do the synthesis. If they don't follow the rules, they need to write it again and again, because I know that we can remember everything like a photo, and I need to check that. So they need to do it as I say it. Just trust it. So yeah, I think it's they really get better, and they really get new skills in terms of their brains activity and ways tackling information for sure. And I'm happy to be there to see that.
Okay. So what I see is that you do a lot of adapting for the material and for the techniques to be suitable to your learners. But in return, you ask for discipline and hard work. Am I correct?
Yes, because they, of course, they have like the whole the whole package as a whole. But to my mind, like this is why I'm also a mindset coach, like a strategist. Uh, I always believe that it's important to uh, adapt and to suit the needs of the student when we are talking of like premium offerings. It's not just like a course, you know, it's like
Mhm.
premium package. So for any premium package that's called a mentorship, having one-to-ones to ensure that you have bespoke uh, everything like the planning, the structure, then weekly calls with me to ensure that yes, you get to reach your goals. It's like ensuring that you have the right guidance. So the adapting part is actually the high ticket point.
Okay.
It,
The next question. Can you sense the learner's mind in development?
uh, yeah, for sure. I thought it was the same question. This is why I was checking again. Yes, for sure, I can see it because I can see how they start processing and retaining all the information and how their mind evolves. And what's actually even more thrilling is that they can also look back and point those times, those moments when they had a leap, when without even realizing they went from B1 to B2, for example, or they started not to think about the rules for an argumentative writing piece or something, and they just do it, and then they are okay. So this is the level I want it to be. And they don't even know how it happened because they let the brain and their mind adapt and do the work for them because they did the work. If you are putting in the effort and you really do the job or the work as you have it in the planning, it's a no-brainer. You really get there.
Sure. Yeah. Okay. Do you think that engaging the learner's minds matter in the learning process?
Yes, for sure. So yeah, to me also, it's like a very, an important aspect of my coaching. It's the only way information is retained without useless repetition. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that we don't have to repeat stuff. God knows how many times I talked by myself in the mirror. Yeah, so, but all the information you get from me as learner, you need to understand it, and it needs to make sense to you. Otherwise, you need to just learn it and learn it and go over it again and again and again. Useless, like it's not efficient, and quite frustrating for high achievers. Yeah, so if I'm a high achiever, what does it mean? It means that I know I can do it in 1 year, but I only have 6 months, and I will do it. I know I can do it. So you need to be like efficient and use the best tools to get there the quickest way. So yes, my students really get their minds engaged in their learning progress from the first moment, you know, because when I'm talking to you about adapting, I'm talking about asking some maybe difficult, like challenging questions. Like, what are your goals? What do you want? Why do you want to learn a language? And like, they really think about, okay, what do I want with this? And it's like the process of getting a learner committed to actually what the goal means by keeping an eye on the prize, you know. So yeah, adapting and making them involve their minds, it's like a crucial aspect from the start to me. And if they really want this skill for life, like the language, whatever language it is, and if they want to pass their language exam, they need to be able to adapt to anything, because as you know, also during the exams you have a lot of there are times, sorry, when when you are in front of unknown situations, so you need to adapt and to tweak and to be able to do your best even though you didn't expect it. So yes, like adaptability and ensuring that the mind is always like they are always involved in the process of getting the information, practicing it. It needs to make sense, always, 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 always. Otherwise it's just time just badly spent.
Okay, one more question.
Yeah.
Okay, if students are going to contact you, what do you want them to be prepared to do?
What students? The ones that I
Yeah.
already have?
No, let's say a new student or me contacting you. Like what kind of discipline, what kind of requirements should I expect to stick to?
Oh, okay, I got it. I thought you were talking about the ones that I'm currently coaching. My only expectation would be to have a call, like a session. It's like a 30-minute session where we go through some questions that help me see if you are suitable for the mentorship. So I don't teach I don't teach everyone. I only teach people who are really determined, as I was. So I can only teach what I've been doing. I preach what I know, and I really need to know that you are going to do it for sure. So if you need to be committed, so yeah, first thing that you need to do is to go through this call with me and figure out if we are suitable, both you and also I need to figure it out. And then of course I have a training, like I have a free training. I'm running it as a freebie, but it's actually the first point where the learners get an overview, the potential, let's say, students get to see exactly what's my method all about. If they feel that they want to see more, to find out more, maybe even take part in some kind of thing, then they get to have a session with me. And of course, if you, let's say, are the best candidate, and I know for sure that, okay, if he says that in 6 months he wants to achieve proficiency, we can totally make it happen. I need, of course, determination, hard work. You need to do your homework. You need to make the do the recaps when I tell you. So you need to commit to really like walking the talk. You know, it's not just putting in the money. It's like putting the mouth where the money is.
Yeah.
Doing the hard work, showing up, and
Mhm.
being there for your goal. Because I can be there for my students, but without them, there is no success. I have done it, so I have my
Mhm.
success story to tell about myself. But I can't make a success out of them without their determination. So the only thing that I need from any student is to be sure why, what's behind that desire of learning a language and mastering a language, and the determination. And I need to know that they are committed. That's it. If you have these three things, like if you have them under your belt, you can totally learn with me.
That's a great thing to know. It has been a great pleasure talking to you, Corina, today. It's amazing.
I'm happy to, and thank you for having me. I think we are a bit over our time slot, but yeah, it was a great talk.
Thank you.